St. Joseph, Missouri, April 1882. A man in dusty clothes stands before Samuel Ralston's mahogany bar, asking for work. Ralston, wealthiest saloon owner in town, known for humiliating drifters, spits directly in his face. The crowd erupts in laughter. Nobody recognizes the quiet stranger. The drifter doesn't flinch. He reaches into his coat pocket, pulls out a silver dollar, and sets it on the bar. "Keep it," he says. "You'll remember this day." That coin was serial number J-0427, one of 427 silver dollars Jesse James buried across 3 states in the most organized vanishing act in outlaw history. 3 hours later, Ralston learns the drifter's real name from a sheriff's telegram. By then, Jesse is gone. And the coin? It vanishes with him. Why did Jesse James carry that exact coin to that exact saloon on that exact day? Spring 1882, St. Joseph. The man calling himself Thomas Howard lived the most boring life imaginable. He walked to the post office every morning at 8, bought tobacco at 9:30, read the Bible with his wife Z at night. Historians would later confirm Jesse James lived under this alias in St. Joseph. Documents, witness statements, rental agreements all checked out. But Thomas Howard was a ghost wrapped in routine. Every morning, Walk checked a different burial site. The stones by the fence post, the oak tree near Miller's farm, the loose board under the church steps. Each location marked one of 18 caches, 427 silver dollars total, buried across Missouri, Kansas, and Nebraska. The coins weren't treasure. They were a communication system. If a coin appeared in public after Jesse was declared dead, it meant, "I'm alive." They're wrong. By April, Jesse had counted his remaining coins 12 times. One was missing. Someone was hunting him. April 3rd, 1882. Samuel Ralston couldn't stop staring at the silver dollar. Hours after the spit incident, he examined it under lamplight. Faint scratches on the edge, deliberate like coded notches. He showed it to Hiram Cole, a coin collector who operated out of the back room at Miller's General Store. Cole turned it over twice. 1881 minting. Rare. Worth $50 easy. Then quieter. "There's a rumor these coins are Jesse James's calling cards." Ralston's hands went cold. He'd just humiliated the most wanted outlaw in America. That same night, someone broke into Ralston's home through the back window. Nothing stolen. Just the coin, taken from the velvet pouch on his desk. The window stayed open. A message. The next morning, a Pinkerton agent named William Westfall arrived in St. Joseph, asking locals about silver dollar sightings. 3 people mentioned the Thomas Howard family. Quiet, polite, nothing unusual. Ralston said nothing. Fear is a currency, too. Jesse had made 2 deposits in one day. Humiliation and terror. Northfield, Minnesota, September 1876. The James Younger gang tried to rob the First National Bank. It became a bloodbath. Citizens opened fire. 2 gang members died. The Youngers got captured. Jesse and Frank barely escaped. After Northfield, Jesse vanished for months. When he resurfaced, he'd changed the game completely. He established the silver dollar system with 11 trusted contacts. Cole Younger before his capture, Jim Cummins, and a woman known in legend as the Widow Thompson. Each contact knew only one burial location. Each coin carried a specific minting year and invisible ink numbers. If Jesse needed to move money, he sent a Bible verse. Psalm 23:4 meant relocate everything. John 3:16 meant burn the map. The system was genius. Decentralized, coded, untraceable. By 1881, 14 coins had appeared in public after Jesse was declared dead in various newspaper reports. The Pinkerton agency had been tracking them since 1878. What Jesse didn't know, they were building a map. And the map was tightening around St. Joseph. Chicago, 1881. Detective William Westfall spread 14 silver dollars across his desk in the Pinkerton agency headquarters on West Monroe Street. Each one photographed with glass plate precision, serial number logged in leather-bound ledgers, location documented down to the street corner. He'd been chasing Jesse James for 3 years, ever since the agency assigned him to the case after the Blue Cut train robbery. The Pinkertons had pursued Jesse relentlessly. Documented fact, public record, newspaper accounts of raids and near captures stretching back to the 1860s when Allan Pinkerton himself had vowed to bring down the James brothers. Westfall saw what others missed. The coins appeared in concentric circles, spiraling inward like a noose tightening. Kansas City, then Independence, then Liberty. Each appearance closer to St. Joseph. One coin broke the pattern, placed in Independence, Missouri, where Jesse's mother, Zerelda Samuel, still lived on the family farm, despite losing her arm in an 1875 Pinkerton raid that killed Jesse's half-brother. Westfall stuck red strings between brass pins on his wall map. The web pointed to one conclusion: Jesse was preparing for something final. He requested Jesse's archive photograph from headquarters, the famous 1864 image Jesse at 16, already hard-eyed from guerrilla warfare with Quantrill's raiders. Westfall studied that face for hours. The eyes held secrets. He sent a telegram to his supervisor in Cincinnati. Pattern confirmed. Target location: St. Joseph, Missouri. Awaiting field authorization. The reply came back in 4 words: find him. Bring proof. Winter 1881, St. Joseph. Jesse, as Thomas Howard, perfected the double life with methodical precision. He walked to the post office at precisely 8 each morning, checking the loose brick by the courthouse foundation, the one that hid notes from his contact in Kansas City. He bought tobacco at Timberlake's shop at 9:30. Never the same brand twice, always paying with exact change, always scanning the street through the shop window for anyone watching. He chatted with neighbors about wheat prices and weather. Every word calculated, every gesture rehearsed to project tedious normalcy. His wife Z knew everything. Historians confirm she supported his outlaw activities from the beginning, managed coded correspondence through relatives, played the devoted housewife while running counter-surveillance operations that would impress modern intelligence agencies. She'd grown up with Jesse, married him in 1874, bore his children knowing full well who he was and what he'd done. The Fords moved in during January, Robert and Charles, claiming to be farmhands looking for winter work. Jesse knew they were dangerous the moment Robert walked through the door. The younger Ford had that hungry look, the kind that comes from wanting legend for yourself instead of building your own. Better to see the knife coming, Jesse told Z one night after the Fords had gone to their room. She arranged cigar ash on the windowsill in patterns. 3 small piles meant the Fords were watching from inside. 5 meant they'd left the property entirely. By March, Jesse realized his fatal mistake. He'd been so focused on controlling the Fords, keeping them close where he could watch them, that he missed the obvious truth. They weren't working for him. They were working for Governor Thomas Crittenden. And Crittenden had offered $10,000 for Jesse James, dead or alive. The reward poster was dated January 1882. Fresh ink, fresh money, fresh motivation. Hours after Samuel Ralston's coin vanished, Westfall arrived at the saloon, bringing with him the sharp smell of train smoke and obsession. He showed Ralston the photograph, Jesse James, wanted poster, $5,000 reward that had recently been doubled. Have you seen this man? Ralston's face went white as Missouri limestone. That's the drifter. The one I... He couldn't finish the sentence. The memory of spit on that hard face made his stomach turn. Westfall leaned across the bar, voice dropping. What did he do? Ralston described the silver dollar, the quiet voice that promised remembrance, the way the stranger's eyes never blinked. Westfall felt the pieces snap together like a Winchester being cocked. Jesse had walked into that saloon deliberately, in broad daylight, with witnesses, testing something, proving something, sending a message to whoever was watching. The detective canvassed street, Joseph for 3 days, showing the photograph to shopkeepers, postal workers, the woman who sold vegetables at the corner market. Everyone had seen Thomas Howard. Nobody recognized Jesse James. On the 4th day, the postmaster, a nervous man named Henry Craig, who'd moved from Kentucky 2 years earlier, mentioned the family on Lafayette Street. Quiet fellow, keeps to himself. Wife and 2 kids. Rents horses sometimes from Applegate's stable. Westfall requested a recent photograph from James Hathaway, the local photographer who'd taken Howard family portraits the previous summer for $1.50. He placed it next to the Jesse James wanted poster on the postmaster's counter. Same eyes stared back. Same jawline cut from Appalachian stone. Same hard set to the mouth that came from killing men before your 20th birthday. The perfect disguise wasn't a mask or a false beard. It was routine so boring nobody looked twice. Westfall sent his telegram to Chicago. Target confirmed. Thomas Howard is Jesse James, St. Joseph, 1318 Lafayette Street, awaiting instructions. The reply came within the hour. Surveillance only. Do not engage. Reinforcements en route. Arrive April 5th. Kansas City, February 1882. The widow Thompson, legendary figure in James lore, possibly a composite of several women who helped Jesse, though some historians believe she was real, a Confederate widow named Martha Bolton, received a letter with no return address and a St. Joseph postmark. Inside, one line of scripture in Jesse's distinctive hand. Psalm 23:4. Yeah, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. She burned the letter immediately in her kitchen stove, watching the paper curl into ash. That verse meant one thing in their code. Move the cash tonight. She was keeper of burial site number 7, hidden under a barn foundation on the outskirts of Kansas City, near the old Santa Fe Trail crossing. That night, under a moon so thin you could barely see your hands, she dug up $4,000 in gold certificates and 39 silver dollars wrapped in oilcloth that still smelled faintly of gun oil. The money felt heavy, real, tempting. She could have taken it. Disappeared to California or Oregon, nobody would have known. Jesse was a ghost, his network scattered. Instead, she reburied everything under a church foundation being built 2 miles away on Troost Avenue, the exact location Jesse had specified 3 years earlier when he first showed her the system, walking her through it twice, making her repeat the instructions back. Historians confirm Jesse used networks of sympathizers and safe houses throughout Missouri, people loyal to the Confederate cause who saw him as a folk hero, not a criminal. Robin Hood with a revolver, what the widow didn't see. 2 Pinkerton agents watching from the tree line with binoculars borrowed from the army. They'd been following her for weeks, documenting her movements. But they misread the scene completely, catastrophically. They thought she was burying money, not retrieving and relocating it. That difference would cost them everything when the sites got dug up later. March 1882. Westfall closed in with the patience of a man who'd learned not to rush the final move. He interviewed the butcher who sold Thomas Howard pork chops every Thursday, the baker who made the family's bread, the woman who sold vegetables at the corner market and remembered Mrs. Howard always paid with exact change, never asking for credit like other families. Everyone confirmed the same story. Thomas Howard was the most unremarkable man in St. Joseph. Paid his rent on time to the landlord, a man named Charles Heaton. Attended church irregularly but politely. Never caused trouble. That's when Westfall understood the brilliance of it. The most wanted outlaw in America, the man who'd robbed banks, trains, and stagecoaches across 5 states, killed at least a dozen men, evaded capture for 15 years, had hidden by becoming perfectly, maddeningly, ruthlessly boring. No late-night visitors, no suspicious packages delivered, no sudden unexplained wealth or expensive horses. Just a man who walked to the post office every morning like clockwork, bought tobacco at the same shop, read the Bible with his family every evening by lamplight. The routine was the disguise. Routine was the mask. Westfall showed Jesse's photograph to 3 more locals. 2 didn't recognize him at all. The third, a livery stable owner named Applegate who'd served in the Confederate Army and still wore his gray kepi on Sundays, squinted at the image for a long time. "Sure, that's Howard. Rents a horse sometimes. Rides out toward the countryside, usually east. Always back by supper, never late." Westfall mapped the riding patterns on his wall chart. They matched perfectly with the burial site locations he'd predicted from the silver dollar appearances. Everything was connecting like a constellation, becoming visible. He prepared his final report for the Chicago office, documenting Thomas Howard's movements, residence, known associates, daily routines. Then he waited. The Pinkerton reinforcements were 2 days out, scheduled to arrive April 5th with arrest warrants and backup firepower. But Jesse James didn't have 2 days left. Morning of April 3rd, 1882. Jesse woke at 5, an hour before dawn, knowing in his gut that something was wrong. The Fords were too quiet in their room down the hall. They moved through the house like men preparing for violence. Careful steps, avoiding the creaking floorboards Jesse had deliberately never fixed. Checking sight lines through windows, hands resting near where guns would be hidden. Jesse counted his remaining silver dollars one final time. 12 left from the original 427. He'd buried the rest, spent some on supplies and bribes, distributed others through his network as signals and payment. These 12 were his insurance, his proof of existence, his legend in coin form. He made a decision. If the Fords were moving today, and every instinct honed by 15 years of survival screamed they were, he'd control the timing and location. He walked to Ralston's saloon in full view of anyone watching, deliberately choosing the most public humiliation he could orchestrate. The spit in his face was theater, carefully staged. Jesse was testing whether the Fords would follow him into town, whether they'd make their move in public with witnesses and complications. They didn't follow. He'd watched for them from 3 different windows on the walk back. That absence told him everything. They'd act at home, in private, where they could control the scene and claim self-defense if needed. Jesse returned home at 11, the April sun warm on his back, removed his gun belt, first time in 7 years, and hung it carefully on the chair by the kitchen table. Z watched from the doorway, her face showing nothing, understanding everything in the silence they'd perfected over 8 years of marriage. Jesse climbed onto a chair, reaching up to dust a picture frame that didn't need dusting, one that showed a steamboat on the Missouri River. His back turned deliberately to Robert Ford, who stood near the bedroom door with his hand inside his coat. The historical record confirms this moment exactly. Robert Ford shot Jesse James from behind, while Jesse was adjusting a picture on the wall. Documented by multiple witnesses, including Z and Charles Ford, investigated by local authorities, reported in newspapers across the country within days. What the witnesses didn't see because they couldn't see it. Jesse's hand was already on a silver dollar in his right pocket, fingers wrapped around the cool metal. When Robert's Colt .45 fired, the coin dropped from Jesse's hand, rolling across the pine floorboards toward the wall, disappearing into a gap between boards. Serial number J-0001, the first coin in his system, the one Jesse had kept as a reminder that everything starts somewhere and might circle back. The coroner confirmed death at noon. Bullet wound to the back of the head, death instantaneous, no suffering. Z. James identified the body. Her husband, Jesse Woodson James, killed by a coward's bullet while unarmed. Public viewing drew hundreds of curious citizens who'd lived next to a legend without knowing it. Robert and Charles Ford collected their reward money within the week. $10,000 from Governor Crittenden, split according to percentages Jesse himself had negotiated through an intermediary. But the legend doesn't stop at the grave. 3 witnesses, Dr. Heddens, photographer James Hathaway, and Z's cousin from Kansas City, later claimed in separate statements that the corpse's hands were wrong. Jesse's hands bore distinctive scars from a war injury and years of hard riding, rope burns and calluses documented in earlier descriptions. These hands looked softer, less weathered, wrong. In 1995, Jesse James's body was exhumed from Kearney, Missouri for DNA testing using modern forensic techniques. Results confirmed it was Jesse, but questions about the immediate 1882 identification remained hotly debated among historians and forensic experts. Some believed the body was genuine, that witnesses misremembered or exaggerated. Others think Jesse paid the Fords $500 to kill a drifter dying of pneumonia, a man roughly his age and build, then staged the scene with Z's cooperation. May 1882. Detective Westfall stood at Jesse's grave in Kearney, not believing a word of the official story. He spent 3 weeks systematically digging up every burial site marked on his silver dollar map. 11 locations across Missouri and Kansas, each one requiring property owner permissions and local sheriff cooperation. Every single site had been cleaned out, emptied within days of Jesse's reported death. Someone had moved fast, with inside knowledge and precise coordination. At the final site near Independence, Westfall found something that made his blood run cold. 1 silver dollar placed deliberately on top of the disturbed earth. Serial number J-0427. The same coin from Ralston's saloon. Jesse's last message, clear as a telegram. You were close, but not close enough. The greatest escape isn't getting away. It's making everyone believe you didn't. Texas, 1885. An old man named J.D. Howard ran a quiet ranch outside Granbury. He never mentioned Missouri, never talked about silver dollars or legends. But late at night, counting coins by firelight, he always stopped at 426. One coin remained missing, J-0001, still under the floorboards in St. Joseph, a bookmark in history. Some claim Jesse lived until 1951. Others insist he died in 1882. In 1948, a Granbury man claimed on his deathbed to be Jesse James. His family believed him. The Fords died violently, Robert shot in 1892, Charles in 1884. Both verified. Z never remarried. In 1963, silver dollar J-0427 surfaced at auction, authenticated as possibly Jesse James's personal currency. In the end, Jesse James didn't rob banks. He robbed certainty. The perfect crime isn't getting away with it. It's making everyone believe you didn't.